fire today. All right. Welcome to Gab and Jam, episode 275.
And what are we talking about today?
All right. So this topic is 3 easy ways to share behind the scenes content for the DIY rockstar. It was inspired by Craft Podcast, and I'll put the link below. At least gets crafty. But since as content creators, we were talking about a couple episodes ago about feeding the social media beast.
Yes.
This is one way, by sharing your behind the scenes content is one way to stand out. Everybody has their pretty perfect final version of everything, but to share the behind the scenes, just like we talked about on last episode about those documentaries where they share about the process and about the kernel of the idea before it becomes something. To me, that is your way of kind of bringing people into your ecosystem.
Okay, well, this was perfect because I started off this video with base cyclone.
That's right.
So a bit of that we put on Patreon.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Where we are actually delving into the process
of why you recut that baseline.
Yes. Exactly. So that's
so of course we're kind of selfish. The reason why sometimes we bring these topics to you is because these are things we're working on.
Yes.
And so just like the woman talked about in her podcast, that a lot of times artists, first of all, you got your head down, you're creating, you're in that zone. Right. You may not be thinking about picking up a camera to try to document anything. Because again, the mindset nowadays is probably more influencer driven, where that is always what you're thinking about. But I guess for us more traditional people, where it's like, you go into your cave, you create, and then you emerge with something eventually.
And that's the tough thing too, is that I guess, in the age of social media, and people can be cruel on social media, sometimes, as far as showing that
messy middle.
What's going on, the mess and what kind of
and how this didn't work, and I tried this and that kind of stuff. So that was why this kind of stood out to me, because we're in the process of trying to do more of that. Yeah. We're almost 7 years into this part of our journey.
Yeah.
And so, I didn't focus on it before. And so now as, a person trying to do more of bringing our tribe together, finding our people, that it is nice, and even for us, we were talking about that with the documentaries, is that it may even be somebody that we're not even crazy about the final process, the final result. Yeah. But I will lean in. I don't care who it is, a mumble rapper, whoever. If you're telling me about how you came up with your ideas. And so, again, that it just made perfect sense. Yeah. When I saw this, I'm like, ooh, I need to share this.
And sometimes, too, you do gain even appreciation for certain art forms that maybe you didn't have the appreciation for. It's sort of like if you do watch, some of these guys who come up with beats. And whether they're programming it on an MPC or using Fruity Loops, or if they're chopping up samples and they are manipulating them and they're doing all these different things to them, it's like, some of the stuff these people do, to, make, this sample sound like something completely different is amazing. Yeah. It's like, wow, you're doing all of this stuff, and for them, it could be just as hard as it could be for you on a guitar or something like that, learning how to play a part or figuring out how to play a part. And it's the same labor-intensive process, just a different way of, reaching this thing where you get this great sound. Yeah. And they will do that, and you get more of an appreciation for the art, even if, like you say, at the end of the day, when you hear the final product, maybe you don't say, okay, this is something I'm going to listen to. Yeah. But at least it does bring a certain amount of appreciation to know, okay, there is some work that went into that. And
also it is inspiring. It's like, ooh, let me go back into my cave and see what I can come up with. It is inspiring.
And then I think some of the things too is sort of like, because of the age of, with the computer and all the stuff that we can fake. I can pull together a take. I can do so many things to fake something. The sound, sound like, okay, I played it all at one time or whatever. I can do all of this stuff. sometimes I think people are thirsty just to get the real.
Right.
You know, okay, this is what this picture looked like without the filter. This is what, this thing looked like before I put the auto-tune on.
Or the fact that you may have scrapped, and I guess I'm going back to his mom used to make these amazing cookies at Christmas.
Oh, God.
And to find out how many batches she threw out.
Well, there was times when we went over there and she was getting ready to throw out a batch, and I was like, I'll take that batch.
that sometimes it is the failures that and again make you have a greater appreciation for the final project. It's amazing.
Because I think there was one that she was getting ready to throw out. There was those pecan porty things. I think that's what kind of got me into them.
Yeah.
But they were slightly burnt.
Yeah.
And she was getting ready to throw them out because of that. I was like, oh my goodness, these things were like the bomb.
Because I like burnt stuff. So.
But they was like, they were just right.
And she was throwing, but again, just the whole trial and error. So sharing behind the scenes, you get to share all of that. So hopefully, even for people who are skittish about sharing failures.
Yeah.
These are 3 ways that when she, listed these 3, I'm like, you know what, that actually works. And it gets you out of the whole, they're going to see my dirty underwear type vibe, And so it made me more interested in saying, let me stop every now and again and share a little bit more about it. The first way, easy way to share behind the scenes content more easily is to share the work in progress. And that's what most people do as you're working. Think about in advance. Like, let me just grab the camera for a couple minutes and either shoot a couple photos and then some captions or a little video because that makes it
it does
a little bit easier if you kind of think about it in advance that as I'm going and then of course when the thing is finished you're gonna have that wonderful photo anyway, so so that is the first way, and that's the typical way. The second way was she said that once something is done and it's successful, then you can take some photos along the way in case it doesn't work out. You can get rid of those, but if it ends up being successful, and that's probably the way. Like if a song is completely done, and you've taken a couple reels, but you haven't shared them yet. That after the fact, because it turns out great. Then you can share the process along the way.
How you got there.
How you got to there. And then of course the third way, you've done something before, you didn't share along the way, but you've done it before. And so that you can repeat it, and you're probably going to repeat
the process.
You're going to repeat the process because you're going to do another one.
I'm saying, or you can deconstruct. So meaning that you're at this final spot, and maybe you forgot to do that. You can always kind of go back through and say, okay, this is how I got there.
Oh, I like that.
So this is why I start off with this part, and maybe you start off with this other part first, and then it evolved to this part, to this part, to this part, and this is how I got there. So that you can kind of do it that way. It's kind of going back to some of the documentaries that we wrote, that we watched. They didn't film that process as they were going through it. A lot of times what it would be is that we would hear like these deconstructed tracks, and they would talk about, here they cut 3 guitar parts. One great one was Steely Dan in Asia.
That's
and they were talking about the guitar solo that's in Peg. And how they had like these different guys do guitar solos, and they played them. All these different guitar solos, and then they played the one that they selected. And it's like when you hear the one that they selected, you're like, oh wow, that's the one that feels right. And it feels right to us now because that's the way we've always heard the song. But they kind of deconstruct and let you hear these other solos on top of it, which was just kind of nice to hear that too. So even if you fail to document as you're doing, you can always work backwards and deconstruct.
I like that. All right. So hopefully those help you as much as they help us, because we're in the process again of trying to feed our Patreon. If you haven't checked it out, make sure you check out the link below. But we are starting to share some more behind the scenes so that we can feed our Patreon and then some of our other social media platforms. But what do you guys do? Do you share? Do you even watch behind the scenes process type videos? if you do, and if you have any recommendations for who we should check out, make sure you leave it below. Or if you want to share a tip for how you do it, that makes it easy for you.
Or check yours out, whatever.
If you want us to check yours out, let us know. All right, and for the foreseeable future,
always you can always stream us, and again, who knows what we'll be dropping.
That's right.
So check us out on every place that you can stream music.
Yes, please follow us on Spotify or Bandcamp. Or
wherever. Apple Music, Amazon.
It's hella friends. All right, if you dig the vibe and you want to be a part of the tribe, be sure to
subscribe.
We're wishing you love, peace, and
chicken grease.